Welcome to the spring season. We've got a ton of things to talk about. We're going to review the ideal lifestyle practices as well as dietary practices that everyone should be adopting at this time of the year and why. So definitely grab a pad of paper and a pen. You're going to want to take notes and of course bring your questions to the live calls so that we can make further augmentations for your constitution, body type, and individual concerns. So to start out, the spring season is absolutely the best time of the year to step into an Ayurvedic lifestyle program in many ways, and also to reset your metabolism and boost your natural capacity to lose weight. So during the winter season and also the seasonal junctions just in general, the human body becomes naturally insulin resistant. So insulin is the hormone that carries glucose into our cells. Now, a lot of times people associate insulin resistance with negative connotations. So we think of things like diabetes, we think of metabolic disorders, PCOS, etc. But actually, all human beings become insulin resistant to some extent during the winter and during the seasonal junctions. And that has evolved over many, to the health-giving advantage of it is that it enabled human beings to survive for longer periods with less amount of food. The problem is that for many of us, we continue to eat the same way throughout the year. So we're not making adjustments to our caloric value throughout the year. We're not changing the types of food that we eat throughout the year. And this starts to have a negative impact on the body. So in this case, what can happen is that if you continue to eat the same amount of carbohydrates and sugar and the amount of food during these periods, you can trick your body into becoming stuck in insulin resistance. And that creates metabolic disorders, diabetes. And after years of doing that, you continue to gain weight and it becomes more and more difficult to lose the weight. So the spring season practices are all about balancing blood sugar and doing dietary modifications that naturally make your muscle cells more receptive to insulin. So we're going to go over the lifestyle practices that everybody should be doing at this time of the year, and then we'll make further constitutional adjustments to take into consideration your unique body type. So that said, I want to talk about three primary things. I want to talk about the lymphatics, the body's lymphatic system and treatment in the spring season, insulin management, blood sugar, and emotions and emotional release. So similar to both Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine say that throughout the year, as the doshas, become more prevalent and decrease, we also have these different organ systems that develop more sensitivity at other times of the year. And so the spring season, it's really about the lymphatics. And the lymph in the body is the body's sewage system. So it collects all the cellular waste from all the cells, collects all the cellular waste and brings it to the proper elimination channels where it's then removed from the body. And it also transports important immune system fighting cells. It is a clear interstitial fluid that moves through the body. It has a circulatory system, just like the blood circulatory system. The primary difference being is that blood has its own pump, which is the heartbeat, to be pushed through the body, where the lymphatic fluid relies on skeletal movement, so exercise and breathing. And so a sedentary lifestyle can contribute to lymph sluggishness and lymph stagnation in the body. Now, disorders of the lymphatic system show up as allergies, excess mucus production, all sorts of skin disorders, congestion, sluggishness, low metabolism, swelling, and water retention. And so the spring season lifestyle practices for people who have a tendency towards imbalances in those areas can be super reducing for them, can be very balancing, especially for them, because these are the conditions that are going to come up naturally much more during the spring. That's why people get allergies and cough and mucus and congestion. And so the spring reducing practices are going to be really good for people that get those sorts of conditions. And then for everybody else, it serves to be more preventative and also helps to maintain your alliance with the season. But mostly it is preventative, so it prevents imbalances from developing in the first place. Okay, So the lymphatic, so we talked about what the lymph system is, and now, so in the spring, which is basically March 1st to June 1st, this is what you want to pay attention to in your body, is your lymphatic system. So dry skin brushing and oil massage are two really important practices to be doing at this time of the year. A dry skin brush is a natural bristled brush that you can get at any natural grocery store. And you use it to manually push the lymph through the body. Now, I just keep mine in the shower, and I use it every time I'm about to take a shower. And you just need to use as much pressure as it takes to move a coin across the table. And you do very light, superficial strokes towards the heart. When you do your arms, you lift your arm above your head so you can go towards the heart. Dry brush your neck, arms, legs, belly. For women, around your breasts tissue. You can do your back to the best of your ability, your buttocks, basically everything but your face and your genitals. But everything else you can dry skin brush. And the dry skin brushing your entire body, can take between 5 and 10 minutes depending on how in-depth fully you do it. And so again, that's going to help with moving the lymphatic fluid through the body, assist with detoxification, circulation, reduce water retention. It's very invigorating, it wakes up the tissues, and it's also exfoliating in nature. And so you want to do this really kind of pretty regularly. So again, maybe 4 times a week, keep it in your shower, and you can do it every time before you actually take a shower. And you can actually use the dry brush, dry or wet. That part doesn't matter as much. Just as long as, you're not like scrubbing yourself, it's very light, superficial strokes, because the lymph fluid is very superficial. And if you push too hard, you actually won't be pushing it at all because you are applying so much pressure. So it's very, very superficial pressure. The next practice is Abhyanga massage. So this is something called a tylum. Ayurveda uses medicated oils called tylums for a wide variety of reasons. We have many different types of tylums. So these are herbal oils that have been herbalized with specific herbs created for a specific purpose. And it could be anything from, we have tylums for women after they give birth, tylums for inflammation, hormonal imbalance, rejuvenation, stimulation, heating, cooling the body, for circulation in the legs, for injury, post-trauma, digestion. We have oils, for your scalp to stimulate hair growth. We have oils to help with reducing insomnia. We have oils that you put in your nose for your sinuses and oils for your ears. So we have many different types of tylums that are used according to your constitution and the ailment that you're trying to work with or reduce. So the oils are used prescriptively, like a vitamin, like a supplement, and like a medicine. Just like when people use nicotine patches, they put them on their skin, right? Or a progesterone cream. Whatever you put on your body essentially consumes. It's like you're eating it. It goes into the blood system, to the circulatory system. But with Abhyanga oil massage, the trick really is regular use. So it's a nice treat to do it every once in a while. Of course, if there's nothing wrong with that, if you're not in a position in life right now where you can do it super regularly, and it's something you do once a month as like a nice treat for yourself, then that's great. But if you want to get the medicinal benefit of the oil itself, you need to be regular about the application of it. And that's, one of the main differences between herbs and pharmaceutical medications is that quite often herbs need to be taken consistently over a period of time. They're much more gentle versus, taking an Advil and you get hit with it at once or whatever. So you apply the oil, you want to warm it. So you could just warm it in your stovetop, just, a quarter cup maybe in a pot or pan, and to remember that the oil will heat up very quickly. It heats up very quickly, but then it cools down very slowly. So it doesn't take that much heat for that long to get it to be warm. And then you can sit down and spread out a towel and apply the oil using long strokes towards the heart. I put down a towel, and then I have like a pair of designated slippers that I don't mind get oil on them. And then you can apply the oil all over your body using long strokes, circular strokes around the joints. And the oil is medicine, you know, it's a tylum, it's medicine, it's to help you to heal. So just take your time with it, anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes. You can't go wrong. It's not so much about the strokes as it is about the application of the oil itself. But in general, you know, you can do long strokes towards the heart and circular strokes around the joints. You know, you can do your neck, you can do your scalp and your hair if you want. It's really nice and conditioning for the hair. Spend extra time on your belly, on your digestion, going clockwise, which is the direction of your intestines. And, you know, again, women, spend extra time around your breast tissue and your armpits. Try to get your back as best as possible. And then after you're completely oiled up, you can, you know, walk around if you want. So if you are going to do that and you want to wear clothing, then there's a couple things about the clothing you should know. One is that you want to wash the clothes separately from everything else because oil spreads really easy in the laundry when you're washing it. So make sure that your oily clothes are washed separate from everything else. And that's pretty much it. So then you let the oil absorb into your body for about 45 minutes. And then you want to make yourself sweat. So you can make yourself sweat through exercise. You can make yourself sweat through a hot bath, or sitting in some kind of a steam or a sauna. There are actually small portable saunas that you can get on Amazon for like $130 if you wanted to do something like that, where you actually sit in it and your head stays out if you're doing this really regularly. Or if you want to do that. Now, you don't have to be dripping sweat, by the way, just enough sweat to create beading on the forehead. So then after you let the oil absorb for 45 minutes, then you make yourself sweat for 15 to 20, then you can take a shower. So you can, if you want to, make it a nice little ritual. Dry skin brush, self-massage with the oil, do your meditation practice, do whatever meditation practices that you have for 45 minutes, then exercise or, you know, sit in a hot bath, make yourself sweat a little bit, and then hop in the shower. And so during the spring, from March until June 1st, that is a good practice to do twice a week. So 2 times a week. And if you wanted to be really diligent about it, you could do it every other day, but definitely twice a week. And so that's going to help you to move the lymphatics in your body. Now, there are traditional tylums that are less easier to acquire, but much easier to acquire than they were 15 years ago. Or you could just use sesame seed oil. So untoasted sesame seed oil, untoasted, which you can actually get in the oil section in any natural grocery store. It doesn't have as strong as sesame seed oil as toasted. You can use that. It's generally a tridoshic oil. It's rejuvenative. It helps the tissues. It's good for all the doshic types pretty much. Or you can get a specific tylum, you know, and so this is an oil that's more traditionally made and it's infused with certain herbs. And if you need help picking one out for your constitution, I'd be certainly happy to give you some recommendations for oils that would be good for you. I really like Banyan botanicals. I like Banyan botanicals. You know, they have some good, their oils are actually not traditionally made. They're cold pressed, but they're still really nice. I like Banyan botanicals. I really love Kerala Ayurveda a lot. They have some really wonderful traditional Ayurvedic tylums. And then after that, I like Garian Sun. So if you want to, you can just explore those sites and just, you know, you could potentially choose one for yourself if you feel comfortable. Or again, if you want my advice to help you and give you some ones that I would recommend for you, I'd be more than happy to do that as well. Okay. So dry skin brushing, abhyanga, movement. So this is the time of the year for movement. Cardiovascular activity, you know, running, bicycling, rollerblading, dancing, cardio fitness classes, whatever. Just like, you know, get your body going, sweating and moving. This is the time to really get rid of that kapha dosha and really get rid of that stagnation and that lymphatic stuff that you got going on. Spices. Spices are really, really good at this time of the year. And so a diversity of spices that you like, you know, and that could be anything from cumin to coriander to fennel to black pepper to cardamom to cinnamon to ginger. Just, you know, experiment and explore with different spices. If you have, you know, a high pitta type constitution where your digestion is sensitive to spices, or if you have acid reflux or ulcerative colitis or any type of, you know, intense inflammation or reactions to heat when you eat spicy things, you're going to have to take that into consideration. And so if that's the situation for you, then I would probably suggest, you know, doing the kapha lifestyle practices, but then including pitta reducing spices. So you're still eating spices, more spices at this time of the year, but you're using more pitta reducing ones that are more cooling in nature and work with your digestive type more easily. This is a spiced water, and so you have spiced waters in your recipe books, and this is cumin seed, fennel seed, and coriander seed mixed together in equal proportions, and you could just keep it around with you in a Ziploc bag, or, you know, put it in some kind of jar and carry it around with you. And you just take a 1/4 teaspoon and put it in a cup, top it with boiling hot water, and sip it throughout the day. So the other practice that's good for flushing the lymphatics and keeping your digestion going, in addition to the dry skin brushing, the abhyanga, and the cardiovascular activity, is drinking spiced waters. And there are spiced water recipes, many of them in your individual recipe books that you could choose from for your doshic constitution. Okay. Now I want to talk about this idea of the insulin resistance. So, insulin resistance and metabolic disorders are a very common concern here in the United States, and many of the developed and westernized countries are getting more and more impacted by things like diabetes and fibroids, cancers, and different types of imbalances related to insulin resistance. And spring season is the best time of the year to really work with that. So the way that we work with it is by favoring a lower carbohydrate diet that is higher in protein, definitely eating 3 regular meals a day, and reducing the amount of fruit that you're eating. So sometimes some Ayurvedic practitioners will go totally dairy-free and grain-free, just cutting out those two things. So it's not that you're doing like this hardcore ketogenic diet necessarily, although if you're going to do keto, if you're going to do paleo, this would be the time of the year to do it. So Ayurveda really, really emphasizes this idea that our diet should be changing throughout the year. So a ketogenic or a paleo diet during the spring months from March to June would be indicated. You could do more of a raw food, plant-based or vegan diet during the summer. And then during the fall season, it's more of definitely a cooked foods diet, soupy, higher amounts of grain, higher amounts of carbohydrates and fats and proteins too, as well in the fall. So the diet is changing in accordance with the season. So if we lived on a farm and we lived totally in alignment with nature's season cycles and cues, then around the spring season, you know, we'd be pretty glad, because we would have been, you know, really in a caloric restricted state for some time, and we would start to gain the harvest. So cruciferous vegetables, leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower would start to grow. Many of the roots like burdock root, you know, so the snows melt and you can start to see certain roots popping up that were edible, like burdock root would be good, or dandelion root, dandelion greens. All of your bitter leafy greens essentially are really medicinal at this time of the year. Kale, all of your non-carbohydrate, medicinal leafy green vegetables are very good at this time of the year. They reduce kapha dosha. They're almost like little towels, right? So they really reduce kapha dosha. They're astringent and bitter. They're detoxifying and cleansing, and they reduce the mucus from the body. Now, these can be difficult for vata types to digest, or people that have vata type or people that have vata type digestion. So you need to take that into consideration by cooking these, you know, cooking all the vegetables for vata. So vata can eat this in spring, but you want to make sure that it's cooked down for them and that it's oil. So using oil and salt and squeeze lemon over it, that's going to help the vata to digest it. Grains. So this is quinoa. Again, in the spring season, this is the time of the year to reduce the amount of grains that you're eating. So if you're going to eat grains, I would keep it to be, no more than 1 serving a day. And some people even do grain and dairy type cleanses and fasts at this time of the year and go totally dairy free and grain free from March 1st to June 1st. Depending on your level of comfort with that, that may be too aggressive for you. And if you want to discuss it with me on a live call, absolutely should. And we can make that decision together if you'd like my support, or you can do some inquiry and self-referral and check in with yourself about how you feel about it. But a good step 1 may not be to just go totally grain-free or dairy-free, but to perhaps reduce it to, the amount of meals that you're eating each day. So maybe, you go grain-free and dairy-free for 1 meal a day. And you could also use seed grains. So the quinoa, amaranth, millet, wild rice is also a seed grain. Those are going to be lighter and drier and easier to digest at this time of the year. And sprouted grain bread is going to be another thing that's going to be easier to digest at this time of the year. In the handout section for this lesson, you will see a spring dietary list and also recommendations for each of the doshas at this time of the year. So that'll be helpful for you. Berries. So this is the time of the year for berries. If you look at the berry, it's astringent. And so again, we're favoring the astringent and the bitter tastes at this time of the year. And so that astringent and bitter helps to pull and detoxify and cleanse. It's not quite as sugary. So all of your berries, your strawberries, your blackberries, and your cherries are good at this time of the year, as well as some citrus fruit like oranges and grapefruits, lemons, and limes. Now, because you want to keep the amount of carbohydrates that you're eating down low at this time of the year, and it doesn't mean 0, and it doesn't mean you have to count them out, but I would save the fruit to eating it for 1 meal, just as having a designated meal each day. Or if you are still needing to have a snack at some time during the day, then you could have it as a snack or a dessert or something like that. So fruit in Ayurveda is best eaten alone, separate from other foods, separate and eaten on its own away from other food. This is because it requires different digestive enzymes as the other foods that you're eating. So if you're gonna have it for dessert, like sometimes I do, I sometimes have some blackberries or strawberries or something for dessert. You wanna wait about an hour until you finished your meal. So you're eating it on its own. The exception to this is in cooking it. You can cook blackberry muffins or something like that, or blueberry muffins. And because it's cooked into the food, it makes it easier to digest, or cooked into oatmeal. So those are these are the ideal fruits to have at this time of the year. Of course, eating at regular times, trying to get off of that snack, but every once in a while it happens. So, is a snack of fruit going to be the thing that, puts the nail in the coffin? No. But ideally, we're eating, at regular times, 3 meals a day, no snacking at all between the meal. And then at least one of those meals is grain-free and dairy-free. And then you're also allowing 8 to 12 hours to pass between your last meal of the day and your first meal of the day. And so you could go up to 16 hours, really. So that's going to give you some caloric restriction and intermittent fasting practices, which are important lifestyle practices at this time of the year. The last thing I want to talk about is emotional cleansing that is indicated at this time of the year. Emotional cleansing that's at this time of the year is really important. So each season has an emotional theme as well. And during the spring season, it's all about letting go of emotions from the past, holding on to the past, clearing the energy. This is a very kapha tendency to hold on to the past, look at the past, have resentments, and, you know, really carry things internally. So you can do practices like writing letters to people that you want to clear the energy with. So let's say you have some broken spirit or broken energy or broken heart with somebody, you can actually write them a letter, burn the letter, bury the letter, and give it to the earth, give it to the universe or God or spirit or source or Jesus or however you relate to it, to clear that for you. That's going to be a very medicinal practice for you to do. And in your handout section for spring, you'll see some emotional release practices that I really encourage you to do, at least one, just to experience what that's like. And of course, to allow me to support you if you need it. So thank you so much for joining me for the spring lifestyle and dietary practices. I'm so curious to hear how you apply these things and notice the benefits of doing so in your life.